Section 5, Managing Virtual Machines. Lesson 1, Managing Virtual Machine States. In the previous section, you learned how to create virtual machines and configure virtual machine settings. In this lesson, you will learn about the different virtual machine states and how those states consume Hyper-V physical resources. Virtual machines hosted on a Hyper-V server can be in one of the 5 different states shown here. The state that a virtual machine is in determines if it consumes Hyper-V resources, specifically memory and CPU cores, and which of those it consumes, if any. It is important to know which states consume physical resources so that the Hyper-V host always has sufficient resources to support the virtual machines residing on it. The first state to consider is off. A virtual machine that is off is effectively powered down. When in the state, the virtual machine consumes no memory or CPU resources. A virtual machine achieves this state normally through a graceful shutdown of the operating system, either from within the virtual machine's operating system or from Hyper-V Manager. But it could have simply been powered down either by choosing Turn Off from the virtual machine's menu in Hyper-V Manager or through a loss of power to the Hyper-V host. Of course, just like with physical servers, it is never a good idea to turn off a virtual machine, since this can result in loss of data or leave the virtual machine in an inconsistent state. Off critical is a state where the virtual machine was unable to start, usually due to a disk storage issue. The next state is running. This is the normal powered-on state for a virtual machine. It will consume resources from the Hyper-V host based on its configuration. While the number of CPUs it uses is fixed, if dynamic memory is enabled, the amount of memory a running machine consumes will depend upon what services are running and the current workload. The assigned memory column in the virtual machine pane of Hyper-V Manager will indicate the amount of memory the virtual machine is currently using. The next state is starting. A virtual machine enters this state when it is first powered up. During this process, the virtual machine verifies that the resources assigned to it are available before attempting to allocate them. In this state, a virtual machine will use CPU and memory resources. The next state is paused. A virtual machine can enter a pause state for a few different reasons. Paused critical is a state that occurs when there is very little free space remaining on the physical storage for the virtual machine. It is also possible to manually pause a virtual machine from Hyper-V Manager, although this is not recommended. It is better to either shut down or save the virtual machine state. A paused virtual machine releases the CPU resources but retains any memory allocated to it. Saved is the last state that a virtual machine can enter. In this mode, the virtual machine releases CPU and memory resources. Memory that the virtual machine had used prior to being saved is written to a file on the Hyper-V host and reread when the virtual machine is restarted. A virtual machine can enter the saved critical state if the virtual machine was in a saved state the last time Hyper-V was able to connect to it.